You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. If you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. And if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have a lot in store for you all today between the yoga news, where I talk about what's going on in the world and how it relates to yoga. Yoga Heals, where I bring on a very special guest and speak to them about their practice, and the Weekly Wellness Challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. So no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, you're driving in the car, you're sitting on the couch, you're laying in the bed, it doesn't really matter. Let's just take this moment to focus on our breath, to focus on our prana. Prana, translating to breath, is in the breath of life, our life energy force. There's many translations, but no matter what you're doing, go ahead and lengthen out your spine. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown so breath can effortlessly move through you. And just start to notice your breath without controlling it and see what it does naturally. And just know that you can always come back to this. Start to gradually deepen your inhales and lengthen your exhales. Let's start by pushing out all of the breath, no matter which breath you're on. Push it all out. So you could start a new breath cycle with me and inhale through your nose to fill your belly up like a balloon. And you can exhale, sigh it all out, push out all the air to deflate your belly. Inhale through your nose to fill all the way up to your collarbone. You can exhale, sigh it all out, releasing all the breath to begin a new one. Inhale through your nose, into your belly, past your rib cage, all the way up to your chest. And then exhale, sighing it all out, no breath left behind. One more time, inhale through your nose, into your belly, filling all the way up to the crown of your head and holding at the top. And exhale, sigh it all out, pushing out all the breath, expelling what you do not need. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. And let's get on with the show. Yoga news. Mistaken identity. Port St. Lucie yoga studio seeing threats after another studio's Trump post. This happened in Florida, of course. Anyways, one studio in Florida made a post about Trump's shooting. I'm sure everybody heard about that at this point. They made a post about Trump's shooting and basically thanking the person that was trying to shoot him and were giving him accolades. And I guess this angered a lot of people. And there's a studio that once had a similar name, and I guess people found that studio and thought that one studio made the post, but really it was another Florida studio with a similar name. So people were sending death threats to the wrong yoga studio. Anyways, it's crazy that people were sending death threats about this anyways. Like, why is this stuff so serious? The owner of the studio that was receiving the death threats, though, said that they would never encourage anybody being assassinated or killed, even if they don't agree with them politically. And that's just not right. And yeah, that's the yogic way to live, I guess, is like no violence, non-violence, of course. So good for her. I just thought that was a funny story and current for the time. So on to the next. Okay, so this story is kind of old, but unfortunately it's still happening. It's still being investigated. And yes, it's the Taylor Casey case again. I've been asked to bring this up and to keep reporting on it, but honestly, this will probably be the last time I talk about Taylor Casey until more information comes out that I'm like, whoa. But I mean, at this point, this is a yoga show, and talking about this is becoming less about yoga and more about a missing person case. And I'm not a crime show. Like, okay, I cover crimes involving yoga, but this is just too much negativity. Sometimes I just want to laugh, and this story just was sad. So I talked about it twice already. She's still missing. The FBI is involved now, and somebody, again, they told me to keep reporting on it and to also check out Reddit and to see what was being said. But I'm just trying to keep an objective view when I speak about stories. And I mean, I know I have my opinions or whatever, but I still want to be centered, of course, the yogi in me. There's a lot of suspicious things. Of course, there was the police officer, or really like the chief police officer, whoever. He ended up taking a leave because he had some suspicious notes released, and he was found to be involved with gang related stuff. So he stepped down, and he's no longer involved in investigating Taylor's case. But I don't know, there's weird things with the ashram that she was at. I mean, people are upset that they were staying in these tents, which I did see a picture of the tents that they stayed in this yoga retreat, and I did think that was crazy to be paying $3,000 to stay in a tent. I don't know. I would want like something a little bit, nicer, but $3,000 is a lot of money. But also there have been other things that have happened at this ashram where there's another person that went missing, and then there was a hit and run death. Somebody was swimming in the ocean and they got hit and run by a jet ski, or I don't know, there's a lot of things that happen. I mean, there's some skepticism about if her case is being taken seriously enough, because Taylor is part of the LGBTQ community and then also Black, so people are like, oh, this is discrimination, this, and like, I don't know. We don't know what happened to Taylor, if she did go missing due to somebody hurting her or something. Some people believe that she left voluntarily. I mean, her passport was gone, I guess they found her phone in the ocean. Who knows? Like, was she kidnapped? There's just a lot of unanswered questions. I just hope that she's found. But, I want to put everything in context. And, maybe it was something going on where there's some big conspiracy and the ashram is doing some weird stuff, working with the police, and it's gang related or this or that. Or maybe Taylor just got in the ocean and got caught by a tide, or hit by a jet ski or a boat, or just got caught in something in the water. And I'm sending prayers to her family, and I hope that she's found soon. Next, I'm gonna lighten the mood up a little bit. LA Fitness parent acquires health club chain export. This has been the talk of the town lately, and I guess I wanted to talk about it because I work at LA Fitness. So I guess if were a member of Export, you can now come to my yoga class. If you're in the Chicago area and you're like, okay, I want to practice with her, then you could check me out at LA Fitness on King Drive. Only inviting the cool people, not the weird, creepy people. So if you're weird and creepy, stay away. That's the yoga news. Yoga Hills. This week's Yoga Hills, Sylvia Ewing. She's a teacher, strategist, poet, and non-for-profit executive committed to offering her life skills to help others find self-awareness and success. She's built a career in broadcasting as a popular moderator, producer, and on top of all of that, she's a meditation coach. I'm really excited for this conversation as Sylvia is actually a former professor for Columbia College, so it's full circle. Let's just get on with the conversation. First, I'd like to say, hey, Sylvia, thank you so much for coming onto the Perfect Prana show. I'm so blessed to have you with me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm delighted that you invited me. I'm thrilled to know that someone like you is sharing the story of yoga in Chicago and beyond.
Yes, Matt, he definitely talked you up. He told me all about you between being a Columbia College professor in the past and then also just being in the industry of broadcasting in general. I've seen you've had your own podcast going on and you've hosted shows and just done a lot in Chicago. So where does yoga fit into all of that? Like, how'd you start practicing? When'd you start practicing?
I am 67, and I started my practice when I was about 19. But even as a child, I had questions about the narrative and the stories that I heard. And, you can have any faith practice and be a yogi, but it made sense to me. The stories and the approach of mind, body, spirit answered a lot of questions for me at a very early age. I had some folks who were into some of it when I was 19, and I started learning, and I never looked back. And then since 2005, I've meditated every day, and the biggest thing is that it works. It makes every part of my life better and equips me to walk through the world with a level of calm and grace.
Yes. So thank you. So you honestly answered, a little bit of my next question is why do you still practice yoga today? And it, like you said, it makes your life better and it helps you to walk through life with calm and grace. And first, I'd like to say that's very relatable. And it's just very necessary because the world can be so chaotic and we're just constantly thrown so many trials and tribulations. So, what better way to handle those things than with a little bit of yoga? I'm curious to know how has your practice with yoga evolved? What is it? What did it look like? And what does it look like now?
Thank you for that. When I was younger, it was direct experience. It was a fascination and a love affair with the physical manifestations. And I know that you've talked about on this program the 8 limbs of yoga and the different aspects of it. And so the physical aspects were always very comfortable for me. I was a gymnast and danced when I was younger, and I loved the movement. I loved the mind body connection and the sense of power, peace, and control that that gave me. But over time, particularly as I studied more, as I was a disciple of the Temple of Kriya Yoga and had a teacher that said, learn from everyone. The more I learned on the meditation side, the more I shifted my practice and encouraged others to still keep the body connection, but to understand the role of the breath, to understand the role of guided meditation and other things. And so I think over time, I'm able to um, have a practice that strengthens me every day and gives me what I need for any given moment. And if that's recovering from health or pain or knee surgery, if that is, like many of us, the uncertainty with elections and things like that, or if that's just getting ready for a meeting or hosting something on television, um, I can pull on a tactic from my yoga toolkit to help me in that moment.
So I know that you've steered more toward meditation, which is an aspect of yoga and an important aspect. And a lot of times when we think meditation, we think, okay, you're sitting still, essentially. Could you talk a little bit about the importance of meditating and sitting still is just as important as the aspect of all these yoga asanas that are like a lot of movement and very hard.
Well, sure. And they are not different because the way that you use your breath, when you do the very traditional hatha, um, like we're in a world where there's so many types of yoga and competitions and there's different aspects, but the most at its core, the breathing in, aware that you're breathing in, the breathing out, aware that you're breathing out, the doing the asanas in a way that allows your breath to guide the movement. It is very connected. So I'll just add that it is very meditative. But then there's a form of meditation for every personality. Walking meditation, doing labyrinths. Some people attune to a visual, an object of beauty, thinking of the most beautiful thing you've ever seen and just unpacking that. Some people do guided meditation. So I think that they're all connected. But to answer the core of your question, stillness is something that makes us uncomfortable at times. And particularly as Black people, I've talked with folks in my practice who say how far we had come from that stillness. There is always a safety or a comfort of having the TV on in the background, falling asleep with the TV on, having music. And when you are still, you hear the inner voice. And I think the trauma that we have experienced at the cellular level can sometimes make that inner stillness uncomfortable at the beginning. But I sit with some Black Buddhists from New Orleans, and they're all around the country, but primarily from New Orleans. And I like the Buddhist practice of a silent sit because it is renewing and it is a way to both still the mind as well as, in some cases, to observe what comes up. So, there's just so many layers and aspects. I encourage people to have the direct experience of seeing what resonates with them.
Yeah. So this inner voice, like you said, sometimes things can come up that trauma, whether it's something you've personally experienced or something that was just kind of passed down to you. How can you change that inner voice to be a little bit more uplifting versus something that's like, ooh, I don't like those thoughts. I don't like being alone with that.
Well, you're always just one thought away from feeling better. You're always just one thought away from joy and change and happiness. So that's one thing. There's also going back to more of a Sanskrit thing, there's a saying, neti, 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 can have many understandings, but I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not this thought. So that's a way of breaking a pattern and observing it. Where is it coming from? Where is it sitting in your body? There are so many places that we feel pain and fear. You could be a heart person. There's a connection to the solar plexus, that part of when you have that gut feeling, that gut fear, or that something isn't right in your gut. So you can attune to your body and you can send your calming breath there, as well as trying to understand What is this feeling telling me? I am safe. All is well. This is in my mind. Why? So there's exercises that you can do. And then there's affirmations. We often forget how powerful that the words we speak to ourselves are. And so, you know, being able to say, I am getting calmer. I am becoming less afraid, to be aspirational in about what you speak into the world. And there's a last thing. You're asking questions and I'm giving a few techniques as we go. So I hope everyone doesn't mind that. But there's one of my favorites is like an observer self. And it allows you to have some distance to understand, the mind, the higher mind, the consciousness, almost like if there was a charioteer and there's a this is an old term, but you could almost call it a horse and buggy if that's easier for people, still old fashioned, but who is controlling the reins? The body might be the, one part, the spirit might be another, but there's a higher consciousness that's driving all of it. And you tap into that. And one of my favorite techniques is called the observer self. So, Kyah, if you were to think, look at Kyah. Kyah is stressed today. Look at Sylvia. So, pulling away, almost imagine in your mind's eye that you come out of your body and you are a foot above your head and you are looking down as we conduct this interview. So detaching, look at Sylvia. Sylvia was hungry. She ate so she wouldn't be hangry. Sylvia is, and so you are distancing yourself and you are acknowledging a higher power than the reptilian brain driven thoughts that can make us stressed, that can make us fearful, and that can make us susceptible to whatever past traumas we've had.
I really like that exercise that you just gave, and honestly, it's something I'll have to try out. Because it is a way that you can separate yourself from like whatever's bringing you down or whatever is just ruminating around your mind. Yeah. But what would be even more interesting is to try that even when we're feeling positive emotions. Cause I find like when you're feeling on top of the world and everything is good. You're like, I am this. I am so happy. I'm all good. Everything's working out and this and that. So I guess that's a way to kind of detach from our emotions or, like you said, our thoughts. And that can be important. Why is it so important to be detached from emotions and thoughts? Because that doesn't sound right. And when I was first faced with this concept, I'm like, being detached, like from your
Right,
emotions, like,
right.
how is that okay? Like, that doesn't sound healthy.
Oh, that's so important. And it does feel like it's counterintuitive. But the when we do namaste, the hands together, and many cultures have a prayer, it is a reminder that we are not left or right. We are not moon or sun and those emotions and attributes. We're not super high or super low. A yogi always wants to be centered in the middle. And their physical tied to the movement of yoga, they call it this shushuma. The spine is very important, and keeping your spine aligned is important. But yeah, you don't want to be one way or the other. And the sayings for many faith practices support it. There's one I love: sitting still, doing nothing, spring comes, which is, a Chinese like Lao Tzu had said that. And then there's another one that is more Zen, sitting still, not sitting still, doing nothing. Before enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. After enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. So you want to keep yourself always self-aware without emotion. Enthusiasm is another thing. Love, joy, those things it's different. But when we become highly emotional, we're less able to help. We're less able to see clearly. We're less able to do what needs to be done. And sometimes it can be startling. I'm not the person, if we're riding in a car and someone's about to run in the street or a truck is coming, I'm not the one to scream. I'm the one to say, oh, there's a truck, be careful. And that works for me. And so enthusiasm, passion, some of those things they're good, but you want to be even. You don't want the pendulum of your emotion to swing too far on either side, because the opposite of that great joy could be great sadness. The opposite of that great sadness could be great joy. And if you see everything as pretty equal, the performance of everyday duties with a cheerful mind or a cheerful heart and a detached mind, that's like an old saying from the Upanishads. And I love that. And I add to it, Kyah, that everything is an everyday duty, whether I'm washing the dishes or interviewing the mayor of Chicago, whether I'm gardening or reciting poetry. It's you see it all with the same loving joy. And hopefully, I'm looking at a sign in my office with a relaxed state of loving consciousness.
It's definitely a journey to, still feel your emotions, because it's like feeling is beautiful. And they serve a purpose. Like we're supposed to feel for a reason, emotionally and physically, but to also kind of be, like you said, detach from those emotions or kind of let them pass or to just observe them. I'm sure like all of us constantly have to battle and just find our way with, because like you said, anybody that's disciplined knows that like every single day you're not going to feel like doing something, but things still have to get done. We still have responsibilities. We still have people to help. We still have to be accountable and all those great things. So that's just a beautiful practice to have. I actually had a question for you about meditation. So meditation can be a lot physically, which is crazy because it's like, again, you're just sitting there but you're sitting there and you're sitting upright. So how do
Well,
you...
may I say that you could lie down also. The most important thing in my philosophy is a straight spine. But in TM, in transcendental meditation, sometimes people are a little slouched over. You want the air currents and the energy currents to be able to flow. So when you're just chatting, you're relaxed. But when you meditate, just sitting up, having your feet on the floor, lying down with your head, with your chin a little lower than your forehead. So maybe something supporting you. Walking, again, some people are walking labyrinths and matching their breath to their stride. So there's the image of sitting in the lotus position or the Buddha's completely lotus with the heels touching the thigh. That is an image, but it is not the only way, and it is not a required way. You can have a brief moment if you're going on an elevator, getting on an elevator to go to a meeting that might be stressful. You can do 3 deep breaths. You can do the E mantra. There are things that you can do to calm yourself and to break the pattern of thought. That is truly, meditation is one thought or no thought. And this space where potentially between your breaths, you have nowhere to go, nothing to do, but be in that moment and to be complete and perfect and whole. So, you can get there by repeating something. You can get there by following your body and your breath, which is this magic vehicle to take you into your core. And you can get there with sound and other things, but it's, it is a state of being with a deep focus. And the monkey mind, as I call it, oh my goodness, why did they say that to me? I don't know. Should I have said this? What were they thinking? What was I thinking? Whatever the monkey mind that's repeating itself, breaking the pattern to one thought or no thought.
Thank you, actually, for that reminder. First, I love how fluid you are with meditation, but then also just the reminder that it's more of a state of mind and not, like you said, it's not an image. It's different for everybody. We all kind of have to get there in our own way, whichever way works for us. Sometimes that might still require, for, like you said, some people to be walking or in motion, then others to just be completely still or lying down. So thank you so much, Sylvia, for the fluidity with that. I wanted to ask you a little bit now just about your general mission. What's your purpose? What's your mission now that you've grown with your yoga practice? What do you want to give to everybody or to give to yourself? Or
Over time, I've gone from, and thank you for that, I've gone from the exploration, of the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s to wanting to give back. I would like to help people understand that this ancient thing that belongs to all people, that, is part of African culture, it's part of, Jewish culture, it's part of everything, this moment of stillness and this respect for, finding the inner voice. On a macro level, I want people to know that in a beautiful age where we've got all these glowing rectangles and apps and things that we can buy or pay for, but that the tool that you need is truly just your breath, and it is free. And I would like the comfort and joy, which was actually the name of a book, with the comfort and joy that I have found. I want to share that. But then I've gone to a micro level or a close, more personal level. I want Black people to understand it. I want people who are service providers who do the kinds of things and the kinds of work that I just would never be able to do, or maybe who face, kind of the horrific parts of society and life. I want them to have a way to heal and renew after their service. During the early part of COVID, I was really grateful to be able to do some work for the city of Chicago, one of the departments, for youth workers who were on the front lines and really seeing the trauma and confusion that the pandemic brought to young people. I like to serve people who are serving, and returning citizens, people who are perhaps at the end of this earth life. I wanted to give that. And I also want young people to know, like, before you do anything, breathe, before you have a weapon or before you do something that you would regret or before you hurt yourself with words or actions, that there is this safe place that they can always go to that belongs to them. and it just takes the tools to do it. When people say, I've tried to meditate, I'm doing air quotes. People won't be able to see that. It is, there's a difference between doing and being. And I guarantee you, some style that will work for you. Maybe it's not the same as it might be for your relative or for your friend. And maybe it's not that app. But there is some style of monitoring your breath and self-awareness that will help you. And then your journey will continue. It's why it's called the path of enlightenment. And that's why it's called practice, because we're always working to get better. But I'm particularly interested in bringing these tools to places where they felt that it was unavailable to them. And I'm interested in breaking the hold that some forms of organized religion have, where you think you need someone else to intercede for you. It's just always about you and you. And that's what you take with you everywhere you go. When you get right with that and love that, then you're able to better serve the world.
There are a lot of people that probably need meditation the most. And like you said, they don't have the tools, or that's just so different from what they're doing now. And for most people, it's really hard to make super big changes at once, or a lot of people are like, I'm not going to sit here and start meditating 30 minutes a day, like whatever the case is. So what are some small things that people can do to just start their journey now, that they could just do by themselves, with themselves?
Sure. It is. The first step is always the best. And it once you make that step, you're on the right path. So first, I've often been asked, when's the best time of day to meditate? The best time of day to meditate is when you will meditate. There are auspicious times, dawn and dusk, and there are practices to have before bedtime, reflecting on your day. But whatever your lifestyle allows is what works best. It is ideal to meditate at the same time every day. So if you have more time in the morning, or you have more time after getting home from work or shutting down your computer or whatever it is that you do, that is your time. There are small rituals. You never want to try to go too long. You want to feel the goodness and to have your mind say, oh my gosh, that was great. I can't wait to do it again. So start small. Start with 2 or 3 minutes of stillness, of breath, and make it something that you can't wait to come back to, instead of something that you're trying so hard to do the right way. Small things, change your clothes. When you come in from work, leave the outside energy. I used to use a lot of incense, and now I've become more aware of maybe, even with some of my favorites, that isn't so great for air quality. But I do have essential oils that I put in a vaporizer, and that's a cue to me that it's time to meditate. When I smell a certain smell, be it lilac or nag champa or sandalwood, that helps to start my journey. And then I know the few things that you can do. No one is so brilliant that, they just start meditating. Maybe they prayed, maybe they concentrated, but there are counting techniques, there are visualization techniques, and I'm happy to share a few of them. But those are the tools that you use, and you give yourself a time. And I'll just end it with that question with, and action becomes a habit, and a habit becomes a way of life. So you start with the action. That's what a good yogi friend always said to me. And then you try to do that action on a regular basis.
Yeah, building better habits, it just builds a better life. So, I mean, definitely, I'm always on and off with a meditation practice, but I guess just what my idea of the meditation practice is, honestly. But I find any moment throughout my day where I can just get a little bit of mindfulness, that's good enough for me, where I could just step away from all the noise that's going on in the world, be in the moment, be present. And that's why I love podcasting and yoga, because both those things force me to just be present in the moment. Like I'm being present in our conversation. And sometimes with editing, I have to be present with that. And I'm sure you understand that because you're all
Yeah.
into broadcasting. What can we expect next from you? I know because you constantly have some type of project or something going on. So what can we expect from you next?
I'm curious to see, and I don't know if I need to do anything, but I want to know what happens. During COVID, I had the idea of like, how can I help children in the hospital get outside of the limitations of their body? And how can I help them use their mind to help their bodies to heal? And so I was able to put together a pilot with a couple of other yogis, two of whom do music, and one's a brother who does something called Yoga Nidra. And at first, 40 families used it, then 90 something, and now it's been a case study, and it's a academic scientific paper. And I would love to see how that approach of guided meditation helps young people and their families when they're in the hospital to do better. And the yogi musician that I worked with, Janice Nakashima, she even wanted to hear the sounds, those blip, blip, blips, the machines in a hospital room. And she came up with guitar that just kind of wasn't discordant with that, but smoothed it out. So I'd love to see that continue to grow and other medical facilities, besides Comer, use that. I am starting a new job. I've got a day job. I do a lot of roles, but I work on the environmental front and energy efficiency front because I feel climate change is coming for all of us. The climate crisis is real. So I want to bring into my daily work that work is love made visible philosophy and enjoy serving, and just continue to use my poetry, which is a little more late in life. I produced and did events with poets, and I've leaned into doing my own work. And I want to continue that. It's very meditative for me, and like your podcasting, or maybe in editing. Editing was stressful sometimes for me. I wasn't as good as our mutual friend. And I would tell myself, Studs Terkel had problems with his equipment too. And that was one of my positive affirmations to like give myself grace. But poetry does allow me, before you know it, time has gone by and I've been immersed and deeply in a zone. And then I do want to continue working with returning citizens, people who were formerly incarcerated and others, and just letting them know that this is available for them.
Yes. So thank you so much, Sylvia. I'm so happy that I got to speak with the Chicago humanitarian, as you're just doing so much for your community. And I love that. And, you haven't stopped. So it's like, even though you've left Colombia, you've still kept giving back. And I just love that. It's very just very inspiring and optimistic, and just showing us that, like, look, our minds are so powerful. And especially for those kids in the hospital, so beautiful that you're teaching them just how powerful our minds can be and how the possibilities are endless. Cause I sickness, and there's just so many circumstances in life that can be so challenging. But if we can get our minds to, like you said, just go past those limitations, then that's freedom. So before we go, I ask every single one of my guests to lead us through a pranayama of their choice, or just a few cues for the radio.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. And I want to thank you. I am thrilled to see you. I am grateful to you for what you're doing. And as I tell my younger friends, I've got your back to help fix all the things we broke as boomers. I'm ready to sit down, but I've got your back as you fix the world. So, what I invite everyone to do, and wherever you're listening to this, or you can come back and listen another time, but get comfortable, lie down if you'd like, close your eyes, feel safe. I'd like to invite you to listen to this sound as long as you can. Don't be startled when you hear it. It's my gong or my medicine bowl. And follow the sound of my voice. My voice. Here we go. As the sound starts to fade, goes on longer than you think, bring your attention to your breath coming in through your nose and going out through your nose. With your inhale a little shorter than your exhale. Breathing in, aware that you're breathing in, and breathing out, aware that you're breathing out. All is well. And on your next inhale, I invite you to take a deep breath through your nose. Hold it as long as you can until you're almost uncomfortable. And while you're holding that breath, make a fist, tighten your toes, tense up a little bit. Tight, tight, tight. And just before you're uncomfortable, release slowly through your nose. Let go. And in your mind's eye, imagine a triangle or a pyramid. Breathe in, up the left side. Breathe out, down the right. Breathe in, across the bottom. Exhale, going up. At your own pace, following that mind's eye pyramid shape. Nothing to do but breathe in and breathe out. No other thought, no place to be. And as you breathe in, feel the space between your inhale and exhale expand. So when you reach the corners of those pyramids, pause. Let the space between exhale and inhale and exhale grow. Relax your shoulders, Relax the muscles of your face. Relax your tongue away from the roof of your mouth. Feel your organs expand inside your body. No tension, just you and your breath. All is well. You have what you need with your breath. It's there for you. And any calm that you feel now, you can come back to again and again. On your next inhale, take a deep breath. Let it out. Open your eyes and see how you feel.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. I really appreciate you giving us, me and the radio, that practice. Yeah, I love the visual cues. It's just something to focus on because, like you said, we have monkey minds. Our mind, it's so easy to just get lost, but it's always come back to the breath because as long as we're breathing, the possibilities are endless. If we're not breathing, then we're lifeless. So yes, thank you so much, Sylvia. I appreciate you coming onto my show. With that being said, namaste.
Namaste. Take good care. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show, available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. To keep up with me, follow me on Instagram at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. Weekly Wellness Challenge. Last week's challenge, aparigraha, non-greed, non-hoarding. That was actually the last yama, and I honestly don't even remember what I said. Like, it's terrible. But you know, I enjoy talking about this stuff every week because at least it puts these disciplines on my mind. I really try to not do more than I need, not to take more than I need, and to live modestly. I'm so far from perfect, and sometimes I do overconsume, as a lot of us do, and it's a work in progress. That's all I gotta say for that. But the yogic way to live is to just take what you need and expel what you don't. And that's why I always say that doing breath work, because it's like, you know, take in the breath that you need and expel it all, because that's the stuff that you don't need. So you can just get rid of that, exhale it. Oh, let's just get on to this week's challenge. If there really will be a challenge this week, it's more so just like, this is what we're going to think about this week. My weeks are challenging enough at this point. This week's challenge, we're on to the niyamas, which is the disciplines for ourselves. So yamas are like how we treat the world and how we relate to others. Niyamas are more so about how we relate to ourselves. And of course, the first yama is cleanliness. You might hear a Christian or something say cleanliness is next to godliness, and I actually agree with that. Being clean is a virtue. Being clean physically, being clean mentally, being clean in what you eat, being clean in your space, literally cleaning your body. Cleanliness protects us. It's sterile. Dirt and grime and bacteria and all that stuff, it gets us sick, and it's just not good for us. So gotta keep it clean. In so many aspects, there's so many ways to think about how we can clean up areas of our lives. I don't know, what do I need to clean up this week? I feel like I need to physically clean up my space. And actually, my yoga is, when I'm able to, is to do my dishes because they're not done right now. And now that I'm thinking about it, that bothers me. So part of my yoga will be to clean my kitchen up because it's important. You got to keep a clean kitchen. People don't want to eat from a dirty kitchen. Like, that's embarrassing. I don't have much to say for the weekly wellness challenge. I've just been at work a lot lately this week, and I almost didn't put out a show this week, even though I just had this whole speech last week about how I wasn't going to give up on the show. I still wasn't going to give up on the show. I just was ready to give up on the show this week because, I've been working a lot. So I was like, maybe I'll just put out the show next week and just be like putting the show out every other week. But I'm like, no, I got to keep showing up even when it's hard. Now, there is a limit to me showing up, and this is actually probably one of the last few of my episodes that I'll put out this summer, and then I might take a little pause, kind of get my own setup and get things together so I can do this more efficiently and at home. So yeah, that's kind of still in the works. Take a breather, but again, I'm gonna stick beside podcasting, but this season might end a little earlier than the other one since it was the summer season. I'm just giving you a heads up now. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. This week's quote, I picked it from Tao Te Ching. We actually read this in my teacher training, so throwback, and it was from Lao Tzu. And the quote is, it's just a little snippet of it, is, if you overcome yourself, you have strength. If you know how to be satisfied, you are rich. And I chose this just because this week I've been learning about being strong. Like, having to go to work so much requires a lot of mental strength out of me. Physical strength, definitely, because my job is really physical, but mental strength, because it's like, I'm like actually an adult now. Like, life is crazy. And then I just think it's always a good reminder just to be satisfied and to be content and to find happiness right now. Like, I saw somebody the other day saying, like, if you're always chasing happiness, it'll never be with you, or it was something like that. And I really do think it is important to sometimes like find the contentment. Like, there is a balance between wanting more and progressing, but then to be grateful for what you have and for the moment and just who you are in general. There's a nice balance between that. And, I feel like a lot of us are always hopping back and forth, and that's okay. Anyways, that's this week's show. It's been very, very interesting getting here to this point. If you would like to keep up with me, follow me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K. Kyah spelled Kyah. It's where I post all my yoga videos and like what I'm up to and like all that great stuff. Also, check the show notes to see any information about the yoga news, what I talked about. And then also to see Sylvia Ewing. I'll put her information in the show notes if you'd like to see what she's about, get some coaching, connect with her. Anyways, it's been a great show. I really appreciate that I could be here this week. With that being said, may the light and darkness within me bow to the light and darkness within you. Namaste.